Tomorrow, you will probably trade part of your life for a number. You'll wake up, go to work, answer messages, sit in traffic, solve problems, and at the end of it, nobody will hand you food. Nobody will give you shelter. Nobody will give you anything you can actually use. They will change a number in a computer, and somehow that number can make you feel safe, or terrified, powerful, or worthless, which is strange because money is not food. You cannot eat it. It is not shelter. It cannot keep rain off your skin. Most of your money isn't even paper anymore. It is a few electrical records stored inside machines you will never see. And yet, you may spend most of your adult life trying to get more of it. So why? Why does your brain want something that, by itself, is almost completely useless? The answer begins with something humans discovered thousands of years ago. You don't actually have to trust another person. You can trust a symbol instead, and that changed everything. Start before coins, before banknotes, before the number glowing in your banking app. Imagine you live in a small human community. You know everyone. You know who hunts well, who has grain, who fixes tools, who helped your family last winter, and who mysteriously disappears when everyone else has work to do. You don't need money to survive here because your relationships remember. You give someone meat today, they help repair your shelter next month. Your sister watches their child. Their family gives yours food after a bad hunt. Nobody needs to calculate whether 3 fish equal exactly 17 berries. Human exchange can run on obligation, on reputation, on memory, on debt. This matters because you have probably heard a very clean story about how money began. Once upon a time, humans supposedly bartered. You had a goat, you wanted shoes, but the shoemaker didn't want a goat. Very inconvenient. So humans invented money. Nice story. There is just one problem. The historical evidence does not fit it very well. Anthropologists studying early economies have repeatedly found systems of credit, obligation, and accounting where the simple textbook world of universal barter should have been.
Long before coins filled pockets, humans were already keeping score, and some of the oldest writing we have is literally evidence of that scorekeeping. More than 5,000 years ago, in Mesopotamia, scribes pressed marks into wet clay. The earliest cuneiform writing, developed before 3200 BC, was used partly to keep track of things like bread and beer rations. Think about that. Writing was barely writing yet, and humans were already doing accounting. But there was a problem. Memory works beautifully when everyone knows everyone. It becomes much harder when your world gets bigger. Imagine giving 10 sacks of grain to someone you have never met. He promises that 6 months from now, his cousin in another town will repay you. Do you trust him? Maybe. Now do that with 10,000 strangers. You have a scaling problem. A promise is useful only if someone remembers it. Reputation is useful only if people know you. A favor is useful only if somebody eventually returns it. Humans needed something that could carry trust beyond the human relationship itself. Something portable, countable, transferable. A piece of memory that could leave your brain. Money became that memory. Not all at once and not in one place. Humans used grain, weighed silver, and other standardized units to measure obligations long before modern currencies existed. Then something important happened. The number escaped the ledger. It became an object you could carry. Around the 7th century BC, in Lydia, in what is now Turkey, some of the earliest known coins appeared. They were made from electrum, a natural mixture of gold and silver. The pieces were irregular, but their weights were standardized, and they carried marks associated with authority. That stamp did something extraordinary. You no longer needed to personally know the person offering the metal. Someone else had already made a promise for them. This piece counts. That is the trick. Money does not eliminate trust, money relocates it, from a person to a system. And once humans could do that, strangers became economically useful to one another on a completely different scale.
In 2013, researchers Gabriele Camara, Marco Sassari, and Maria Bigoni tested something remarkably similar in the laboratory. They created groups in which people repeatedly had opportunities to help strangers. In small groups, cooperation could survive. But as the groups grew, cooperation became harder. Then the researchers introduced tokens. The tokens were intrinsically worthless. They could not be redeemed for dollars, they were just objects. And something bizarre happened. People began accepting them. They helped someone in exchange for a token because they believed another stranger would later accept that token from them. The token became money, not because it contained value, because everyone believed everyone else would treat it as if it did. That sounds almost ridiculous until you open your wallet. A $100 bill is mostly cotton and linen. The number in your bank account is even stranger. You cannot touch it at all. Its power comes from shared belief backed by institutions, law, and the expectation that someone else will accept it tomorrow. Money is coordinated imagination, but coordinated imagination can move mountains. Once value became portable, human cooperation exploded outward. You could work for someone you didn't know, sell to someone you would never see again, save today's labor for next year, carry purchasing power across borders, build organizations far larger than any tribe. Millions of strangers could cooperate without knowing one another's names. But there was a price. Because once humans learned to measure value with money, money began measuring humans back. Before money, many obligations were personal. You helped me, I owe you. The debt carried a relationship inside it. Money can cut that relationship clean. You helped me, I paid you, we're even. In the 2013 token experiment, something else happened. Once monetary exchange took hold, voluntary helping was partly displaced by exchange. People increasingly stopped simply giving help. They sold it. Money made cooperation with strangers easier, but it also changed what cooperation meant. And your brain learned the new language frighteningly well.
In 2001, neuroscientist Brian Knudsen and colleagues at the National Institutes of Health put volunteers inside an fMRI scanner and gave them cues predicting monetary rewards. As the possible reward increased, activity increased in the nucleus accumbens, part of the brain's reward circuitry. The money wasn't food, it wasn't water, it wasn't sex. It was a symbol that could eventually become those things, and your reward system responded anyway. That is money's deepest trick. Your brain doesn't have to want the object. It wants what the object unlocks: food, warmth, choice, status, safety, time, a door you can close, a doctor when you're sick, the ability to say no. Money compressed thousands of possible future needs into one number. So of course, losing that number hurts. In 1979, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published prospect theory after experiments showing that people evaluate gains and losses asymmetrically. Losing something can matter psychologically more than gaining an equivalent amount, which makes sense when you stop thinking of money as paper. Your brain can read lost money as lost possibilities: less food, less security, less control over tomorrow. And there is one more problem. There is no natural finish line. Your stomach can tell you when it is full. Your lungs can tell you when they have enough air. Your body can tell you when it is warm. Money has no biological stop signal. 10,000 can become 20,000. 20,000 can become 100,000. A million can become 2, because you are not accumulating the thing itself, you are accumulating possibility, and possibility has no ceiling. That is why money can become so psychologically strange. You can have enough food for the rest of your life and still feel you do not have enough money. The symbol has escaped the need it was supposed to represent. But don't make the easy mistake here. Money did not simply corrupt humanity. Without impersonal exchange, the world you live in could barely function. The stranger who grew your breakfast does not know you. Neither does the engineer who helped design your phone, or the worker who made your medicine, or the technician keeping electricity flowing into your house tonight. You do not owe each of them a personal favor. Money closes the loop. That is its genius. It allowed trust to travel farther than friendship ever could. But look at what we traded. We traded obligations between people for obligations measured in numbers.
We traded reputation inside a small circle for credibility inside enormous systems. We traded a world where value lived largely inside relationships for one where almost anything can be given a price. And in return, we gained something your ancestors could barely imagine: freedom from needing to personally know the people you depend on. That is why tomorrow you will give away hours of your life for a number. The number is not real in the way bread is real. Its value exists because millions of strangers agree to continue the same story, but that doesn't make it powerless. Language is a shared story. Borders are shared stories. Laws are shared stories. And money may be the most successful shared story humans ever built. A stranger accepts it because another stranger will accept it from them, and another and another. A chain of trust stretching through people who will never meet, until eventually it reaches you. Staring at a number on a screen, feeling your heartbeat change when it goes up, feeling your stomach tighten when it falls. 5,000 years ago, humans needed a way to remember what strangers owed one another, so we built a symbol. Then we trusted it. Then we organized civilization around it. And somewhere along the way, the symbol stopped merely measuring what we wanted, it became something we wanted. Money isn't valuable because it is real. Money is real because we all agree it has value.